Everybody, welcome back to the next episode of Dialing In for our Line 6 Helix, and today I am wrapping up, finally, my Firmware 3.15 series of Dialing In videos. I believe after doing this video, I've covered absolutely everything that I could possibly cover about the new firmware. If I've missed something and you realize it, please let me know and I'll see if I can do a video about it. Today, though, I'm talking about an effect that I completely ignored from the beginning. I read about it really quickly and just kind of disregarded it, not thinking it may be of any use to me. Once I finally dove into it recently, I realized this is actually quite useful, and it is the Ratchet. Now, it falls under the delay category, but really it's anything but a delay. It's more like a sampler slash looper, I guess, but not quite a traditional looper as we would know it. So it's a seemingly, at first glance, very simple effect, but when we think about it a little bit more, we can really use this to come up with some very creative ideas that could be very useful for our preset creation and for our playing, whether live or in the studio. So without further ado, let's dive over to HX Edit and take a look and see what the Ratchet is all about. So first things first, you're going to find the Ratchet over here in the delay category. There is a mono version and a stereo version. Both do pretty much the identical thing, but if you have a stereo path, you would probably want to utilize the stereo version and make sure all your blocks after it are also stereo so you don't collapse it down to mono. Okay, having said that, what do we have here? We have time, or we could flip that over to note sync, which is something I oftentimes like to do. Effects level, which is basically just going to allow us to blend the sound of our direct signal with the affected kind of sampled sound that we just used. Now, that might not make sense until I show you what this actually does, but if we're going to maybe sample a little snippet of audio and then want to perform over top of it, maybe we want the effect level to be a little bit quieter, so we'll use that too. For now, we'll keep it up to here around 8 just because we do want to hear what it's doing. The level is just the output level of the effect, much like every other effects block in the Helix, or pretty much every other effects block has some sort of output level on it so that we can just control how much signal is being fed into the next part of our chain or the next block or series of blocks. Operation is interesting. We have normal, dry, kill, and mute all. This will make a little more sense once we try this out. Again, normal is just going to function in this way. I did a video about the tessellator last week, I believe it was, and the tessellator kind of listened to our playing before we engaged the pedal, and then once we engaged the pedal, it played back what we played previous to a pedal press. The Ratchet's going to work in a different way, and obviously it's a much simpler effect than the tessellator is, but the Ratchet's going to sample what we play after we press the pedal, and for whatever length we have the note sync or time set to. So if we want to sample 100 milliseconds of audio that we play after we press the pedal, it's going to do just that, and then it's going to keep repeating that. So let's just try this set at these sort of default settings that it comes up with when we kind of open the Ratchet up. Let's just see. Let's get rid of the block. We'll go to the delay. We'll go to a stereo instance. We'll bring Ratchet up. There you go. 100 milliseconds, effects level at 8, operation normal. What we're going to need to do first, though, is assign this to a foot switch because it's really going to be of no use to us. If I have this turned on, it doesn't do anything. It has to have audio playing from our guitar or another source when it's engaged to know what it's supposed to sample and loop. So let's do this. We'll right click it and we're going to set this to foot switch 7, usually my favorite foot switch to use in videos. It's easily accessible for me. So now as I'm playing, I turn that off, it goes away. When I re-engage it, it's not going to play back what I just played. I'd have to replay something else into it. So because we have the time set so low, it's just giving me this stuttering effect because it's repeating that note that I played, or at least 100 milliseconds of whatever I played after I hit the switch, and it's just repeating it, looping it over and over again. So I do something like that, you can then see how the effects level is going to work. So I can bring the effects level down. The thing is, I can keep playing over top of it. So you can see that I can continue to play over top of that and decide the balance of how loud or soft I want this little stutter effect I just put together was. Now, the other thing I can do, and this is back to the operation control, I can have it normal where it plays what it's playing behind here, this little stuttering thing that I just did, and I can play over top of it. Or I could have dry kill, which keeps the effect there still, but doesn't allow me to play over top of it. So effectively killing my dry signal, unaffected signal. Or we could have mute all, which turns it off. Now you might say, well, why don't I just disengage the pedal? Well, if I disengage the pedal, that little sample I just made goes away, and I have to play it again or play something else again. If I just mute all, I can come back in with it at any time. Now you might say, well, how could I use that? Well, one thing we could do is we could assign this to a foot switch, and let's put it on foot switch number 8. And then we could come to bypass controller assign, and we could actually decide how we want it to function. Maybe I want it to go between normal and mute all. So now when I come over here and I press this pedal, I can have that little stutter effect come in and out however I like. Now, another cool thing we could do is we could make that a momentary pedal. So when I press, it comes in, and when I release, it goes away. Right, so we could bring that volume up. So that is actually very, very cool little effect we can have going on there. Now, the one thing about that is that if I have it on mute all, I can't keep playing over top of this. So what if I was to pull this down to a parallel path and then, select a split AB? Now I am getting my dry signal path back, because I have this on mute all, but it's only muting what's on this path. So now, because I moved it to the other path, my little stutter effect is gone. Let me re-record that. Now you don't hear anything because it's set to mute all, but if I go back to my operation pedal, so I could be playing something on my guitar, and I could have that sneaking in and out. Maybe I want it a little quieter. So you can see you get kind of creative with this. We haven't even messed around yet with the actual time function on it. So very cool what we can do with this. And I think, if you're kind of understanding what I'm getting at here, you can start to really get some creative ideas going that could very well be extremely useful for us. So what about if we switched this over, though, to sort of a time note sync base? So I have this set at 92.7 just because I was doing some tap tempo stuff. But one other use I thought of for this that was kind of cool, and let me actually just get rid of this foot switch here, because I don't really want that to function in that way right now. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring this back to normal. I'm going to set the note sync to a half note. Now, let's say I was playing a little lead phrase that I knew was going to be 2 beats long, or maybe I knew it was going to be an entire measure, so set it to a whole note. But let's just start with this half note. If I'm playing a little phrase and tap tempo, the tempo that I'm playing at, so if I play that at that tempo and then engage the ratchet, I get that repeated phrase. If I knew I wanted to play that phrase and then harmonize it, I could play that phrase, then 2 beats later, harmonize it higher. This is just a wacky idea I had. So let's try that. Now, I don't have this on a momentary switch, so I have to disengage that to get rid of that again, but I could also come over and set my actual ratchet bypass to be momentary as well, so that if I was playing something like that, same idea I'll use. I'll play this, I'll do my little harmony, and then I'll just release the pedal, and that harmony will go away. So we have a lot of possible control over this, and we can start to really see how this could be extremely useful. Now, again, I could bring this down to a separate path and mess around with this in the same way I did a moment ago, where we still have this assigned to number 7. And let's say I want to do something like I just did, but I want to come back and reassign foot switch 8 to control our operation. And again, we'll do the same thing. We'll have it float between normal and mute all, let's say. So now when I press this switch, it goes between normal and mute all. Now I'm also going to take the bypass off of momentary, and I'm going to come back, I'm going to make it a latching switch again. I'm going to sample that little silly little couple note sequence I was doing. So we have that now, and I could use my operation control to bring that in and out whenever I want. And I can just have it come in and out whenever I want. Now, I'm not playing to a click track or a metronome right now, so it's a little bit wonky. If I was playing to an actual click or constantly tap tempoing in, this is going to be very on the money as far as being able to line it up and have it sound very crisp. So very, very cool stuff. So there are just a few really interesting ideas that I thought about with the Ratchet. I'm sure there's many other possibilities in how you can use this. Obviously, using that time effect, moving it around, is going to be extremely useful. Whether we want something very fast, we could set it for 64th notes, 32nd notes. If we were in the note sync setting, if we were using the time-based setting, we could set it 50 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds, 200, whatever works for your particular situation. But I think as we mess around with this more, it can really spark a lot of really creative ideas. And I think it's another amazing tool that the fine folks at Line 6 have given us, and a wonderful addition to our Helix and HX Stomp. So I really hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope it was helpful. Please like the video, share it with anybody who you think would get some use or some enjoyment out of watching it, and also subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thank you guys so much. Ciao for now.